Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today, deep into Neil Gaiman's American Gods.
Oh, a good one.
Yeah, we're going to tackle the themes of identity and transformation. A wild ride it is.
Okay.
Through myth and Americana. And we've got a guide to this academic paper, Identity and Transformation in Neil Gaiman's American Gods.
Oh, cool.
It'll help us figure out how stories we tell, they shape who we are.
I like that.
And hey, maybe, just maybe, we'll figure out if gods can lose their power.
You've picked a fascinating topic, for sure. What strikes me about American Gods is the way Gaiman blends these fantastical elements with, real-world anxieties about cultural shifts. It's almost like he's holding up a distorted mirror to our own struggles with, identity in a world where everything's constantly changing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's step into this world right alongside Shadow Moon, our protagonist. Fresh out of prison, he's hit with a sudden death of his wife.
Oh, wow.
It leaves him feeling lost and adrift.
Right.
Almost like a blank slate, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. And that blank slate quality is essential to his journey. As the paper points out, Shadow's initial passivity actually makes his eventual transformation even more striking. He goes from a pawn, swept along by these events, to someone who actively shapes his own destiny.
Like a hero.
It is. It's pretty classic, a hero's journey. But with that, Gaiman-esque twist.
Oh, yeah. And what a twist. I mean, come on. Finding out you're the son of a god. Talk about a curveball, right? But it's not just about, cool lineage.
Right.
It forces Shadow to confront this fundamental question. If even gods can be forgotten, what does that mean for our own sense of identity?
Right. That's huge.
Yeah.
The paper, it argues that Shadow's struggle to reconcile his ordinary life with this divine heritage, it kind of mirrors a broader human experience. We're all grappling with these multiple identities, the everyday self and the potential self, always constantly negotiating who we are in the face of societal expectations and personal aspirations.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of societal expectations, let's talk about the epic clash at the heart of the novel, the old gods versus the new. You have these figures from mythology and folklore, like Odin, literally fading away as belief in them dwindles.
It's sad.
It is heartbreaking, but also kind of makes you think, right?
Absolutely. The paper draws this compelling parallel between the decline of the old gods and the anxieties of globalization, just as these once powerful deities are struggling to stay relevant in a rapidly changing world. Many traditional cultures, they feel threatened by, the homogenizing forces of modernity.
It makes sense. And it's not like the new gods are immune to change either, right? Technology, media, globalization, they're thriving on our 21st century obsessions, but what happens when the next big thing comes along?
Oh, good question.
It's almost like Gaiman is warning us about the fleeting nature of power, even in the digital age.
That's really astute. I like that. The paper doesn't explicitly address that, but it does highlight the fragility of belief systems, whether it's faith in ancient deities or reliance on the latest tech. Gaiman reminds us that nothing is permanent, and that impermanence is reflected in Shadow's journey as he traverses this constantly shifting landscape, both literally and, metaphorically.
Speaking of landscapes, let's talk about how Gaiman uses America as more than just a backdrop,
Right.
It's this dynamic, ever-evolving entity, a melting pot of cultures that's constantly being reshaped, almost like a reflection of Shadow's own transformative journey.
The paper refers to America as a liminal space in this context, which I think is brilliant. It's not just a physical location, but a symbolic realm where boundaries blur and identities are constantly being negotiated and redefined. And remember, Shadow he's traveling through very specific locations, like the House on the Rock and Cairo, Illinois, places where the line between reality and myth is intentionally blurred.
Yeah, which actually makes me think about how we all encounter those liminal spaces in our own lives.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe it's a new city, a career change, even a challenging relationship.
Yeah.
Those moments where we're kind of forced to confront who we are and who we want to become.
I like that. Yeah, it's like he's saying that transformation isn't just an internal process, right? It's also about the environments that we inhabit and how they shape our sense of self.
Right. And that sense of self is deeply tied to the stories that we tell ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
It's not just a plot device. In American Gods, right? It's almost like a force of nature.
Absolutely. The paper, it dives into the idea that stories aren't just entertainment.
Right.
They're how we
Mm-hmm.
make meaning of the world, how we pass on, cultural knowledge. It's how we connect to something larger than ourselves. And in a way, the gods themselves, they're embodiments of these stories. Like their power, it's directly tied to the strength of belief.
Which makes their decline even more. Like poignant. They're not just losing power. It's like they're losing their narratives.
Yeah.
Their very essence.
It's true.
It's like a cautionary tale for our own time.
Oh, yeah.
What stories are we clinging to that might be holding us back?
Right.
And what new narratives do we need to embrace in order to evolve?
Right. Good questions.
Yeah.
The paper suggests that this tension between clinging to old stories and embracing new ones, it's at the heart of Shadow's journey. He has to, let go of his past, his assumptions about who he is, step into this new mythic reality. It's a process of shedding old skins, like a snake,
Yeah.
To allow for growth.
Speaking of shedding old skins, let's talk about memory and forgetting.
Oh, interesting.
Seems counterintuitive, but the paper argues that forgetting is just as crucial to identity formation as remembering. Like the old gods, they're almost imprisoned by their memories, unable to adapt because they're so fixated on past glories.
Yeah, it's like, how's that saying go? You can't fill a cup that's already full.
Yeah.
To make space for new experiences, new beliefs sometimes.
Yeah.
We had to let go of what's no longer serving us. Of course, this doesn't mean erasing history or dismissing the past.
Right.
It's more about recognizing which stories are empowering and which ones might be holding us back.
That's a powerful insight. It's like we have to become editors of our own life stories, curating the narratives that shape our present and future.
Yeah, I like that.
Which, thinking about it, is kind of what we're doing right now with this deep dive.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're sifting through layers of meaning, highlighting what's most relevant, and trying to connect it to the listener's own experience.
Precisely. And just as Shadow's journey, it's one of constant discovery. This deep dive encourages the listener to engage in their own process of exploration.
Right.
What stories are shaping their life? What beliefs might they need to re-examine? What possibilities for transformation are waiting to be uncovered?
Right. So we've talked about stories, memory, and the challenges of transformation. But there's another element that feels central to American Gods: belief.
Yeah.
It's literally the lifeblood of the gods, right?
Absolutely. The old gods, they're fading because people have stopped believing in them, their power. It's directly tied to that strength of belief. And this raises, a fascinating question. What does it mean to truly believe in something?
That was it?
A conscious choice, a feeling, a cultural inheritance.
I don't know. And how do our beliefs shape not just our individual identities, but also the society we live in? Think about the rise of the new gods, technology, media, globalization. It's a reflection of our modern anxieties and aspirations, isn't it?
The paper argues that the gods we choose, they reflect who we are both individually and collectively. So if we're worshiping at the altar of technology and media, what does that say about our values, our priorities, our fears?
It's a bit unsettling, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see that.
Are we so caught up in the pursuit of progress, of information, of connection, that we've lost sight of something more essential?
It's a valid concern. And American Gods, it doesn't offer easy answers, but it does encourage us to be mindful, to question our assumptions, and to examine the impact our beliefs are having on the world around us.
Because in a way, we're all participating in this ongoing creation myth. The stories we tell, the choices we make, the beliefs we embrace, they're shaping the future. Just like the old myths shaped the world we inherited.
And speaking of shaping the future, the novel doesn't shy away from exploring the darker aspects of transformation. Particularly Shadow's encounters with death.
Yeah, that's a great point. Death it's a constant presence in American Gods, but it's not always portrayed in a negative light. It's more like a catalyst for change, a force that breaks down old identities to make way for new ones.
Exactly. Shadow's interactions with the god of death, Mr. Jekyll. They're surprisingly philosophical, prompting him and by extension the reader to confront big questions about mortality, purpose, and what it means to live a meaningful life.
And it's not just Shadow who grapples with loss and sacrifice.
Right.
The old gods, they're sacrificing their past glory, their familiar ways of being to try and survive in a new world. And even the new gods, they're making sacrifices, albeit of a different kind.
Right.
They're sacrificing depth for breadth, tradition for novelty, in their pursuit of ever-expanding influence.
The paper suggests that sacrifice is an integral part of any meaningful transformation, whether it's letting go of outdated beliefs, stepping outside of our comfort zones, or even just making time for personal growth amidst the demands of daily life.
It's like that saying, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
Right.
But in this case, the omelet is a more authentic, more resilient, more fully realized version of ourselves. Makes you wonder what we as a society are sacrificing at the altar of these new gods. Are we trading depth for instant gratification, community for virtual connection?
That's a question American Gods makes us think about. It doesn't offer a simple answer, which I think is part of its brilliance. Instead, it prompts us to look at our own lives, our choices, and ask if we're really aligned with the values we claim to hold.
If we're going to bring this back to our listener, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from this deep dive into American Gods?
If I had to distill it down to one key insight, I'd say it's this idea that identity is not a fixed point. It's a journey, a process of constant evolution. It's shaped by the stories we encounter, the choices that we make, and the beliefs that we embrace.
It's like Shadow's journey across America.
Yeah,
he's literally traversing this vast landscape, but he's also navigating this internal world of shifting beliefs and evolving identities.
And just as Shadow's journey, it isn't always easy or straightforward. Our own paths to self-discovery can be messy, challenging, and full of unexpected detours. But that's also what makes it so rewarding. The paper emphasizes that it's through these challenges, these moments of friction and uncertainty, that we truly learn and grow.
Like they say, the only way out is through. And in American Gods, it doesn't shy away from the darker aspects of that journey. I mean, we've talked about death and sacrifice, but there's also this undercurrent of violence and loss that runs through the entire narrative.
That's true, and I think it's important to acknowledge that not all transformations are positive or painless. Sometimes we have to go through periods of darkness and upheaval to emerge stronger on the other side. The paper, it draws a parallel between this idea and the cyclical nature of myths themselves, where death and rebirth are often intertwined.
So it's not about avoiding the difficult stuff, but about finding the courage to face it head on.
Yeah.
Because maybe, just maybe, on the other side of that struggle lies a deeper understanding of who we are and what we're capable of.
Exactly. And I think that's ultimately a message of hope. Even in a world that feels increasingly complex and chaotic, we still have the power to choose our own narratives, to shape our own destinies, and to find meaning in the midst of change.
Which brings us back to that final provocative question we posed earlier. If the gods we believe in reflect who we are as a society, what does the rise of these new gods, technology, media, globalization tell us about ourselves, and what new stories are we writing that will shape the future?
Those are questions I don't think anyone can answer definitively, but American Gods offers a powerful framework for engaging with them. It invites us to be more critical of the stories we're told, more conscious of the choices we make, and more intentional about the future we're creating.
It's a call to action disguised as a fantastical adventure. And for our listener, if you're feeling even a little bit inspired to embark on your own deep dive into the nature of identity and belief, I highly recommend. Check it out, American Gods. It's a wild, thought-provoking ride that'll stay with you long after you finish it.
And perhaps it might even spark a transformation of your